I told her that's chubby. You're chubby. Am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend she's not curvy, she's chubby? Oh my god, buddy, you're running on a thin line right now, and that line snap for sure. I'm already calling you an asshole for this, but let me hear you out. So my girlfriend, 23 female, and me, 26 male, have been together since 2019. She used to weigh about 125 pounds at 5'8". She was pretty thin. The past 13 months, she gained 25 pounds and now weighs 150 pounds. She continuously calls herself curvy, and that's just not true. Her boobs did not grow with the weight gain, and she is still a 34A cup. Her thighs and butt area did grow a bit, but she's still not an hourglass. You're an asshole. Holy shit. I don't like what? Stop. I wouldn't be bothered by this if she didn't heavily identify with it. When she was 125 pounds, she kept identifying with how thin she was. At 125 pounds, she was proud that they couldn't see anything on her CT scan when she had an appendicitis because she was too skinny. She wants to make a TikTok fashion page dedicated to curvy fashion. I got annoyed with her identifying so much with a body type that isn't even hers that I said, "You're not curvy, you're chubby." She looked at me stunned. I told her curvy was like Beyonce, for example. She said that she felt that she was curvy because she's not skinny anymore and not fat. I told her that's chubby, you're chubby. And she began to cry and left my apartment. Oh my god, wow, that's so mean! It's been 12 hours and we haven't talked since. I know this was mean, but it was true. I was so frustrated with the idea of her making this fashion TikTok account for a body type that's not hers. See, let's get to the root of it. Why does that bother you? It's like her own personal TikTok. Like, why do you care? Why does that bother you? It's her life, it's her body, it's her TikTok. Like, why does that? Does has nothing. It doesn't affect your life at all. Also, she hasn't had an eating disorder or anything. I think she just naturally gained weight as she got older. Am I the asshole for stating a fact? Am I wrong for writing something in my journal to expose that my wife was reading it? I, male 29, my wife is 28. She is 5 months pregnant. I have a journal that I write in occasionally. My wife knows I have one and I told her it's private. I don't have any big secrets, but it's a private space for me to write out some thoughts and give them time to think. A week ago, I started to suspect that my wife was reading my journal. I had written that it would be nice to see a friend again because we hadn't seen each other in over 2 years. The next day, my wife asked me about how that friend was doing and if we're planning on meeting up anytime. I found that a bit coincidental, then I started thinking back on some other coincidence, such as my wife getting me something relatively obscure for my birthday that I had written about. I wanted to be absolutely sure, so last night I wrote a fake thought that my wife was gaining too much weight in pregnancy and becoming unattractive. She's not, she's fit and fine. I know that sounds harsh, but I wanted to write something that was 100% fake. And I never had said or implied something my wife would just ignore. Well, today I went out to get groceries and came home to my wife crying. I asked her why, and she said she can't believe I thought she was overweight and unattractive. I asked her where she heard that, and she threw my journal at me. I asked her why she was reading my journal that she knew was private. She said that's not the point. The problem is what I wrote. I told her the whole point was for me to catch her reading it and how I know she does. She called me an asshole and said I need to apologize. By this time, I was pretty mad, so I said I will never apologize for anything I write in my journal, and she needs to realize that she is the only one who did something wrong. Otherwise, we have bigger problems in our relationship. She wanted me to leave the house, but I refused, so she is staying at her sister's now. I am committed to holding my line and not compromising, but I'm still angry. So, am I the asshole?
My boyfriend Freddie, 30 male, and Callum, 29 male, have been best friends since college. They were roommates and graduated together, and all that stuff. Me, 30 female, and Freddie have been dating for 6 years, and we're getting married next January. We're incredibly happy, and we can't wait to have our fabulous wedding. We both deal with anxiety because we have a very high profile and demanding jobs, so we agreed to have a small wedding, simple, relaxed, and stress-free. I've shared spaces with Callum at my boyfriend's family events, parties, and he hangs out with my boyfriend a fair amount of the time. He's great. I like him. Here's the issue though. Callum does this thing where he sits or stands very still and stares into space for a long time. Freddie told me it's a thing called catatonia. I call that just zooming out, or disassociating as Gen Z said. The problem is that my boyfriend usually babysits him when this happens. I mean, he stays right next to him the whole time. I thought it was like a nice, cute gesture, but on the day of our wedding, I mean, really? That sounds like the opposite of our dream day. He's even taller than my boyfriend, so just imagine a 6'4" guy standing in the middle of our reception next to the groom. Here's the conflict. I talked this privately with Callum, just me and him, and he agreed that he would be a distraction. He declined the invitation. I asked him not to tell anything to my boyfriend, and he said that he would be too embarrassed to say anything. I said, please don't feel embarrassed. I know it's not your fault. And we left it at that, very friendly and politely. I told him that he's more than welcome to join us for our Christmas dinner, because I know that he's not close with his family. And like I said, I like him. I told my boyfriend that Callum declined, and he was disappointed, but he agreed that less guests fitted our idea with a small, low-key, relaxed wedding. So it was still perfect. The next day, I told my mom, my sister, and my maid of honor, and they were visibly upset with me. My mom said it was an a-holy move and that it was ableist, but I don't think that's true because it's not really a disability. I think it's more about his personality and his thing that I know is going to take a toll on my boyfriend that day. I want to make sure that I was not a horrible person to pacify my conscience. So, am I in the wrong for uninviting a friend to my wedding so my boyfriend doesn't have to take care of him? Part 2. I uninvited a friend to my wedding so my boyfriend doesn't have to take care of him. I'm going to try to keep this simple. I was an ableist. I did something horrible to Callum. I did something unforgivable to him, actually. I took away his agency and I didn't see him as a person, the lovable person that my future husband cares so much about, and I did something horrible to the person that I love. The a-hole tag is right, and the advice that I got was so much appreciated. My first instinct should have been to speak directly to the two guys, the guy I love and the guy that my future husband loves. I was called out yesterday, and instead of going directly to them, my first thought was, oh, I need to learn from a reliable resource. I should talk to a doctor before talking to Callum. And it's fucked up that even after all of that happened, I was still thinking just about myself. My sister called me yesterday to offer her help again, and that was another wake-up call for me. I talked and apologized to Freddie last night. He was honestly more worried about Callum above anything else. He said he wasn't hurt by the lie. He always sees the best in others. That man's heart is too big for his own good. He just blamed my behavior on pre-wedding anxiety, but I told him that it was definitely more than that. I talked to Callum yesterday too, and he was kind enough to literally take an Uber and come to our place ASAP first thing in the morning, without any question. After I apologized, he was crying. Don't want to get into details, but he was clearly hurt by what I did. And at the same time, he was very relieved that my apology came rather quickly. He told me, I knew you had a good heart. I told him it took a whole village to wake me up. He apologized for downplaying his condition with me. He said he often does that to avoid freaking people out. That hit me like a brick. Cal and Fred shared some tears too. If the wedding happens, Callum will be there. From our long conversation, Freddie thinks that anxiety is too high right now, and he wants to hire a wedding planner to help manage the workload. I told him that I'm probably going to need therapy too, because I can't blame ableism, stupidity, and lack of empathy on being stressed out. We're not going to get married in January. The venue allows us to reschedule. We might do that if it's possible. That's the only thing that I know for certain. I feel like I failed at marriage even before starting, and I failed at loving my new family too. I got the quick Google search comment a lot, but if you Google catatonia, it says a group of symptoms with different possible reasons. Then it jumps straight ahead to heavy stuff. Like, at the time, when I Googled it, I thought it was a symptom. I didn't know the difference between syndrome and disease and condition. It sounds incredibly stupid to write this, but in my head, it wasn't different than people getting motion sickness. Cal and Fred always acted as if it was something usual, and it was something that you'd expect from time to time. So I definitely normalized that. Freddie's friend also acted that way, in the sense that every time Cal had an episode, they'd be like, oh, again? That's classic Cal. Oh damn, we can't leave the party because Callum is doing his thing. Cancel the Uber. You know, mostly joking about it. And of course, Freddie was always there to take care of him. Now I understand why that was so important. He's incredibly susceptible at that state and it can't be disturbed, and he needs to be watched. Of course, Cal lives most of his life without Fred, and when that happens when Fred is not around, so yeah, he has no choice but to be susceptible all by himself.
In high school, I was in the girls' locker room just like throwing on some extra deo for the BO, and I made awkward eye contact with one of my friends while I was deodoranting up, and she looked at me and she went, did you know that deodorant is actually addictive? And I was confused because this was 2009. This was before everybody started hating deodorant for some reason. And I said, I mean, I wear it every day, so you could say that I'm addicted to it. And she said, yeah, the more you wear it, the more your body thinks you need it, and the worse you're going to end up stinking. That's why I never wear deodorant, because I don't want my body to get addicted to it. And I was confused because this was not like a resident witch girl, okay? And I don't have anything against witches. I don't want to offend the witch community, but like I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they had like magic hygiene habits. But she wasn't. She was like one of the popular rich girls, and I was like, okay, good luck with never wearing deodorant ever. But I never smelled her, so maybe she was just one of those people who doesn't stink when they sweat. My dad's that way. He has that gene, and I always thought that I had it until I was like 13 or 14, and my brother said, hey, you know how dad has that awesome gene? I haven't been breathing. I just went through that all soon. It's been 1 minute and 13 seconds, and I feel like I haven't taken a breath. I was 13, and my brother said, hey, you know how dad has that really cool gene where he doesn't stink when he sweats? And I said, yeah. And my brother said, you don't have it. Go put on deodorant. And I was like, I mean, I wanted to be mad at him, but I figured that he could have just let me walk around being the smelly girl, and he didn't, so that was really nice of him.
Am I the asshole for letting my stepdaughter spend a night in jail? My wife and I have been married for 6 years, and we have 2 kids, 8 and 5. My wife also has a daughter, Mary, 18, from before we got together. She's a senior in high school, and she currently lives with us. She usually goes to see her bio dad 2 weekends a month, but due to extracurricular activities, it hasn't been that often. And her dad lives 2 hours away, so she usually drives over there. Well, this past weekend, my wife took my younger kids over to see her sister, and Mary said she was going over to stay with her dad. So I was by myself, and at 3 a.m. I was woken by a call. My wife told me Mary had been arrested.